Greetings and salutations, horror movie fans. My name is Gilbert Yabar, and welcome back to the Attic Review. On today's episode of Tar, it's time to talk about the sequel to director Damon Leone's smash cult classic that shocked all of us with that scene. And Leone continues his reign of terror with Art the Clown returning in Terrifier 2. Talk about being the dark horse and surprise darling of the horror movie world in late 2022. Art took the genre by surprise with shocking box office numbers despite its over-the-top gore and violence and unreal runtime of 2 hours and 18 minutes long. Director Leone continues his Art the Clown saga a year after the original events of the first Terrifier takes place, and lets his imagination run rampant in this gory film that goes beyond just slasher elements and actually steps into a bit of fantasy as well. And I'm excited to talk to you about it and answer some questions that might be in the air that you may have. In Attic Review fashion, I'm going to break the movie down into the 3 acts as I saw them play out, what I liked and disliked about each act, how I felt about the movie overall. So without further ado, let's check out our new favorite clown against a formidable foe in Terrifier 2. No time is wasted in reintroducing us to Art as we see that vicious mofo resurrected a year after his evil shenanigans in the Miles County area. Like stretching when you wake up, Art finds a coroner to mercilessly dismember and do other awful things too, then collects some supplies and bounces out. Hats off to Art because dude likes to look clean before and after his evil deeds, so he visits a laundromat, strips down, and throws the shitty garments to be washed. And in spooky and disgusting fashion, we meet a demonic looking young one that we'll call the Little Pale Girl, and we'll address her more in the Act 1 breakdown. These two finished up some patty cake. Art cleans up, suits up, and takes off. But not before leaving a bewildered bystander nice and dead. We get to a title card, and then probably my favorite opening to a film now. I'll gush about it more in the Act 1 breakdown. But a beautiful song by The Midnight introduces us to the gorgeous Sienna, who is showing us her talent in cosplay as she is designing one hell of a warrior costume. Is this costume and sword shown a little bit of foreshadowing? Hell yes, but that's Sienna and this is Sienna's family. Her mother, Barbara, and her brother, Jonathan. And Jonathan is a little weirdo that is getting chastised for wanting to dress up as the Miles County Clown, and Sienna is very concerned with his unhealthy obsessions with serial killers. But Barbara also reminds Sienna that she also has a little dark side. We also learn that Sienna's father had passed away recently. He was an artist with some very interesting work that is art and Sienna related, but we'll chat about that later. Maybe I should stop falling asleep with the TV on because Sienna dozes off with some crazy stuff on the tube and awakens in an even crazier dream sequence. A catchy ass song about a creepy clown cafe is being sung by a weird TV cast, and this shit is making me uncomfortable. But wait, it gets worse. Sienna is in sheer terror as Art pops up to make this dream even more dreadful, and then he murders everybody in eyesight. But as he tries to set Sienna aflame, she protects herself with a sword that we saw earlier that was gifted to her from her father, and worlds collide. As the flame in the dream carries over into reality and sets Sienna's wings on fire. I love symbolism, and it's important to note that the sword was not phased. We are transported over to Art's lair, where he is sprucing up his deadly toys, and the Little Pale Girl turns on the TV and, hey, what's that on the screen? Well, if it ain't the interview in the start of the first Terrifier, where interviewer Monica Brown is being a complete jerk to survivor Victoria, and well, we all saw what happened there. I can't save this for the breakdown. I'm sorry, but I just love that they fell right into the time sequence perfectly from the first one out of nowhere. I just really admired the writing here to make it connect. Alright, moving on. Jonathan just can't catch a break as he is scared pissless by seeing Art and the Little Pale Girl just chilling in his school hallway. And then those demon jerks frame him up so it looks like he was mutilating a dead possum. That's a new low for those two. Moving back over to Sienna, we meet her friends Allie and Brooke. And Brooke breaks the news about Monica Brown. I mean, we already know, but it rocks Sienna's world, giving her a panic attack because now she realizes that her dream and this grisly news could be connected. And after Jonathan is outed and punished for his crime at school, we end Act 1. And you know what else is a crime? You, watching without being subscribed, so avoid that bad rap. Hit like and subscribe, and let's get on to the likes and dislikes of Act 1. Act 1 likes, where to start? Well, director Damon Leone and actor David Howard Thornton certainly found their voice and rhythm with Art and the world of Art. Art is menacing, but near the point of being comical with his over-the-top antics and violence. But this is the world of Terrifier, and it is fun being here. The dream sequence? God, that song. I was singing that shit for days. Another Act 1 like is the introduction of a new demon entity with the little pale girl that resurrected Art, so that caught my wonder and interest. And then Sienna, who I think we all fell in love with, and is poised to be the final girl. I can feel it, but there's so many unanswered questions about her breathtaking self. And I mentioned it earlier, but I love how they tied in the interview in real time with the movie. Just brilliant. Act 1 Easter egg likes? Well, let's see here. There's some fun cameos at the school where Jonathan's friend is actually, he's the little jerk spawn of Danny LaRusso in Cobra Kai. And then we have horror royalty with Felissa Rose of Sleepaway Camp fame. Very nice. Act 1 dislike? Ugh. This first 40 minutes raised more questions than I was ready for in a slasher. This is new level slasher shit, as they're introducing Sienna for something big, but there's so many questions about her, her father, and more importantly, who the F is that little pale girl? Well, let's see what we can dig up in Act 2. Sienna and Allie head to town to go pick up some new wings for Sienna since hers kind of went up in flames. And at the costume shop, Allie accidentally bumps into a very polite Art. But then Art hilariously threatens and taunts Sienna. I mean, it's scary because it's Art, but goddamn, it's so funny. So Sienna buys her wings and gets out of there, but then Art is scolded by the cashier a few times for being a creep. Art, being the gentleman that he is, just takes the high road and walks towards the exit, only to lock it and put up the clothes sign, and then proceeds to make the cashier realize that he wrote some checks that his ass can't cash by gruesomely beheading him, and then using the head as decoration. God, Art is messed up, but that still is nothing in comparison to what he's got planned next for Allie. Sienna arrives at home and Jonathan is begging her to believe him about his art experience. He shows her their father's missing book of artwork, and as mad as she is about it being hidden, she is thrown through a loop trying to comprehend what she is seeing. There's also some news clippings that are relating to the little pale girl, an old carnival, and the Miles County Clown Massacre that had happened the year before. And then there are drawings from the father about Art's crimes of the past, and another drawing about Sienna killing a demon. Is this all connected? Allie is in her comfy home handing out candy to trick-or-treaters when she notices a blacked out van, but she doesn't notice that creepy little pale girl sitting shotgun just watching her house. And then Art rings the bell looking to get some candy from Sweetheart Allie. But after denying Art candy and him angrily demanding his fair share of sweets, she impatiently throws a handful at him and nervously notices his bag of deadly treats before slamming and locking the doors. Whew! Close call. Sienna is at home watching a news update about the attack on Monica Brown when she thinks that she gets a threat from the TV. Weird. But that doesn't stop her from cleaning up and becoming an absolute knockout. Oh my. Glad Sienna's night is going so well, because unfortunately her friend Allie is going to regret how she treated Art earlier as he breaks into her house and then in her bedroom. My goodness, conducts a vomit-inducing assault on this poor girl as he takes his time torturing her. I'll let you watch that shit because even just talking about it hurts. And let's just say, I'll never look at my hand the same. But there is a fun fact about this dark sequence that we'll talk about in the Act 2 breakdown. After obviously not hearing from Allie, Sienna gets a weird nod of approval from her mother on her awesome costume and then goes out with the bad apple of the group, Brooke, and they head out to a Halloween party despite Jonathan begging Sienna not to go out. Back at Allie's house, her poor mother comes home to Art enjoying his time with Allie, and oh yeah, she's still alive. And then we cut away to the screams of Art finally ending them. Now back at the party, Sienna is concerned about her missing friend Allie, but Brooke says chill out and party bruh, and then introduces her to her boyfriend Jeff, who is wearing a very ironic shirt, which we'll find out later on why. But they go out in rage, and as they do that, we see some trick-or-treaters being greeted by Art at Allie's house as he's handing out candy from a newly made festive bowl. At Sienna's house though, Jonathan and Mama Bear are fighting over the dad's artwork and the existence of art. Mama Bear gets really pissed off and calls the father a sick man and destroys the book. Jonathan gets really mad, calls her a biatch, catches some hands, and then Jonathan decides to run out of the house. Alright, I'm about to condense this shit for a little bit. Brooke proves that she is the worst friend in the world by drugging Sienna with Molly without her permission. But nice and high, Sienna calls her mom to tell her that she loves her, which is a good thing because mom is about to meet her maker in the garage as Art is waiting for her with a shotty. Woo! That was brutal. But Sienna is still partying as Jonathan gets tricked back to the house by that little pale girl, where Art is waiting there in the kitchen to torment old John Boy with his mother's remains in a fudged up scene at the dinner table. Then Art drugs and kidnaps Jonathan, steals Sienna's sword, and this whole time it looks like the little pale girl is directing traffic here. And we see Sienna having Brooke and Jeff take her away from the party after Bab makes of Molly, and her thinking that she sees the little pale girl sends into another panic attack. In the car drive, Sienna receives a phone call from the little pale girl mimicking Jonathan's voice to trick her into that carnival place mentioned earlier, and we end Act 2. And did you see Sienna having a panic attack? That's what I look like when I find out you're watching without subscribing, so please save me some anxiety, hit like and subscribe, and now let's get to Act 2 likes and dislikes. Act 2 like, I am huge on pace and retainability, and this film does not feel at all the length of being over 2 hours long. The gore will of course grab our attention because we are horror freaks, but the story is actually very interesting and is presenting more than just mindless horror shit. Director Damien Leone is developing a shit ton of story to work with right before our very eyes. Another Act 2 like, actor David Howard Thornton is simply incredible. He is just filled to the brim with charisma and just damn he is good. Little Act 2 fact about the bedroom sequence is that it was actually extended because they had more time to think shit up as a result of delays from COVID. They stated that what they had originally was already pretty good, but since they had more time, they had more ways to make the audience even more violently throw up. Act 2 dislike, I was honestly just sad that her friend Brooke had such a shitty character turn. I really enjoyed her at first, so it was really sad that she turned heel so fast. Aside from that, this movie is great so far, so on to Act 3 and the conclusion of Terrifier 2. Act 3 starts in the creepy park where the creepy little girl became the creepy little girl, and as Sienna runs off to go find Jonathan, Brooke tells Jeff about what happened to Sienna's dad. Long story short, fiery suicide after a supposed brain tumor had him acting violently weird. Sounds suspicious. Sienna's trying to find John and vice versa, but over at the car, Jeff and Brooke are getting drugged up. And Jeff has to go pee-pee and shake his wee-wee when Art pops up and makes cruel irony out of Jeff's shirt and crotch. And then Art chases after Brooke in the park, and my oh my, when he corners her in the bathroom, woo, it is brutal. As Sienna finds and mourns her mangled friend, Art appears out of nowhere looking very playful, and then the plan is complete as Jonathan shows up as well. But Sienna distracts Art by letting him kick the shit out of her for a while as Jonathan gets a head start to escape. And then the next 20 minutes is basically Art slashing up Jonathan whenever he gets a spare chance to breathe, in between him and Sienna beating the absolute shit out of each other. I mean, they do a real number on one another. But in the midst of battle, Jonathan's theory is proving to be true, and that Art and the little pale girl needed to lure Sienna to this carnival place because apparently this is their best chance of getting her out of their way. Yeah, I don't get it either, but I love it. Alrighty, back to Art dying, coming back for more and slashing between everyone. It's really messy here. And it looks like lights out for Sienna as Art shanks her with her own sword and then leaves her in some magician's drowning escapey thing. In there, she is dying and drowning, and then she goes off to some dream world where, poof, through divine intervention, she is back, baby, and ready to kick some Art ass. Just in time, too, because Art was beginning to literally feast on poor Jonathan when a juiced-up Sienna shows up to cut Art's life into pieces because this was her last resort. Decapitation, Art with no breathing. Sienna don't give a fuck. Art cut her arm bleeding. And the little pale girl looks pretty pissed off, but she gathers Art's head and I guess is going to wait for round 2 in Terrifier 3 because this baby is over as she leaves Sienna and Jonathan alone as she exits the park. Well, almost over, as there is a mid-credit scene with Chris Jericho of WWE fame and the original survivor from a year ago, Victoria Hayes, who had just attacked that reporter, Monica Brown. Well, they're at a mental institution, and let's just say art is not done yet, and I cannot wait for Terrifier 3. I also can't wait for all my friends watching this to subscribe so that way I can avoid the mental institution and do this full time, so please do me a favor, like and subscribe, and let's talk about Act 3 and how I felt overall about Terrifier 2. Act 3, well, let's see here. I love that this act went bonkers. It transcended horror and touched on fantasy, and I'm extremely excited to see what's in store for Terrifier 3. I really loved how it garnered so much attention to the backstories that haven't been touched on yet, but at the same time, delivering a solid conclusion to this movie. The third act setting was spooky, and I like the fact that there was a reason behind luring Sienna there for the final showdown. And I like that the writing was amped up for the third act and didn't get lazy with too many loose ends. And I guess I didn't say it enough, but wow, Sienna with that jacked up final girl presence. Loved her character development, and it's impressive that actress Lauren Lavara is trained in martial arts, so she did a majority of the dirty work. Act 3, slight dislike, okay? The pace was fine, but I still maintain that this could have been shortened by just a little bit. However, I am gonna shut up because I truly appreciate Leone's expansion of this story. How did I feel overall about Terrifier 2? Let me tell you. Leone and crew, thank you so much for making horror fun again. There is so much to be appreciated by this style of horror being resurrected and perfected again. I mean, oh my goodness, did you see those box office numbers? Astounding for a gore fest like this, and makes one proud to be a horror movie fan. Nothing but admiration for this film, and I am so giddy to see what the Terrifier 2 crew are going to present in the next chapter. And that's it for today's episode of Tar and my googly eyes towards Terrifier 2. And I hope that you could stomach this film that is dark but surprisingly upbeat. It's been a pleasure. Please like and subscribe. Tell some friends. My name is Gilbert Ybarra. Thank you so much for watching the Attic Review. Smile, Tiger.